So we start with introduction to computer programs. As we know, every computer programs, it does some processing. That's the job of the computers, and also that's the job of the computer programs. So we give them some inputs. The computer or the program does some processing on those data that we are giving to the computer, and it generates some kind of output. And it does this work in a super fast manner. That's the real use case of the computers. They can do repetitive tasks and they can do lots of fast calculations. So every program that we are going to create in this course, and in general for every computer program that you are going to create, it has something called inputs, which we are giving to the program. So inputs, it can be something that the user enters those data from the computer keyboard, or from the mouse, or from the touch screen, and this input information gets into our program. The program, then it runs some calculation, it does some work, it does some processing, and it generates some kind of output. So mostly in the output context, most of the output that we are going to do in this course is all about printing some text on the screen. So we get some inputs from the user, mostly on the keyboard. Our program will do some work, it processes, it generates some information, and we print those outputs on the screen. So that's the general use case of the computer programs. Now, you heard about all of these things related to the pseudocodes, right? So pseudocodes, we have it for this OCR exam and also for AQA. So let me talk to you about the pseudocodes. So pseudocodes, the name might be a little bit weird, but it just means a way for creating programs. So you may heard about the computer language like Python, like C#, C, C++, Go, Rust. You know, we have so many different computer languages. But pseudocode is just a very basic kind of language, which is very easy to code, and it doesn't have those complexities of the modern languages. So pseudocode is a language that is used for our exams. So we write our codes using the pseudocodes related to the OCR or the AQA. So how do we do the inputs, the outputs, and the processing using the pseudocode? So we need to learn three essential skills related to the pseudocodes. So you have to remember, you know, we have inputs, we have output, and we have variables and assignments, and how we do the processing. Remember, we have variables in the program. So variables, imagine that as a little container, as a little box or little basket, which you can put something inside it. And whatever input or information we get from the users, we need to store this information inside something. So imagine that we have a little container with a label on it called my num, and we are going to ask a user to input a number, and that user will input a number, let's say number 3, and that 3 will be stored inside this variable called my num. So this is a variable, imagine it like a container, and we put number 3 inside that variable, which is that little container. Now our program is going to multiply this number by 2, so just a very basic mathematical calculation, and store it inside another variable. So what we're going to do is, we have this my num, and we have another container called result, or another variable, and we multiply my num, which is this one, this little container that we have here, and it was having number 3, and we multiply that by 2, and we assign it to the variable called results. And finally, we print this result on the screen. So this computer program that we have here, with these 3 steps, it gets one input from the user. So user inputs some number, a number. That number goes inside this variable called my num. We multiply that variable by 2, we store it inside a variable called results, and finally we print the results on the screen. That's all about this little program that is going to do. Let me show you how this program works in real pseudocode working of the OCR. All right, welcome back. All right, so we head to this little website called codestation.drbyte.co.uk. So as you may know that pseudocode does not have a compiler or interpreter, so we cannot really use the computers to create pseudocode and test our pseudocode. So I have created this codestation.drbyte, which is helping us. It's an interpreter for the OCR language, and we can test our programs here. So what I'm going to do is, I have this little window here, which is the code editor. So I write my code here in the pseudocode language, and whenever I want, I will click on run. So when you click on run, it will run your program and it will show you the result of your program here on the right side window, or the console we call it. So let's create that little program that asks the user to input a value, a number, and we multiply that number by 2 and we print it as a result. So let's do that. So this was just the hello world. I delete that and I start by creating a variable. That variable was called my num, and we ask the user for an input. So we write input. Then in double quote, we ask the user, please enter a number. And then we are going to multiply that number, the my num, multiply by 2. And finally, we are going to print that results out. There is no case sensitivity in input and output, so you can write them in small or upper cases. And I'm going to print the result is result. Now here I need to make one more change. Here I have to store this as an integer. I will teach you all of this in next couple of slides, so you don't need to worry about it, but I just want to show you that the user enters a number, and after that the result, which is the multiply of that number by 2, will be shown on the screen. Now it's just 3 lines, line number 1, 2, and 3. So line number 1 is our input, line number 2 is our processing, our program's processing, and line number 3 is the output. Just very basic 3-line program. Now I click on run. If I click on run, it says please enter a number, and I'm going to enter 10, and I expect the program to print me 20, because 10 multiplied by 2 will be 20, and that is it. The result is 20, and this program executed in 0.001 seconds, which was very fast for computers. So this is how we do the computer programs little inside this code station. Now let's get back to the slides for the next section. All right, so there are 3 very basic commands that we need to remember. There is one which is called for variable and assignments. So always we have variables and we assign some information to our variables. Remember, the variables are those little containers or basket that we store some information inside them. To store or assign information inside the variables, we use one single equal sign. So over here, see in the line, in this one, the red one, so I'm assigning number 5 to a variable called x. So x is having just number 5. So a number 5 is stored inside the variable called x. And you can create any variable with any name, and you just need to start with the character, with the alphanumeric character, not a number. But you can use numbers inside your variable names, but it should not be in the beginning. We have operators. Operators are like arithmetic or mathematical operators. So this one, let's look at this one. So x, which is a variable, is equal to a. A is another variable plus 3. So whatever a is, we don't know actually this one single line, but our program may have stored something, some other input or some other information inside the variable a, and that a is being added by 3, and the result is being stored inside the x. So x, if it was carrying 5 here, in this line, now it is holding a new value, which is whatever a is, a plus 3. We have input. So input, we have to assign again. Remember, always whenever we have an input, we need to assign that input into some variables. Remember, whatever we are getting from the user, we have to put it inside one of those little containers or inside a variable. So we are assigning it to the variable called n, and we are using this command called input, open parentheses, open double quote, please enter your name, close double quote, and close the parentheses. So this command will ask the user, will print this, please enter your name, and it will wait there for the user to input something and press the enter. So when the user enters something, the user can enter a name, maybe Bob or Jack or whatever, or it may type a very, very long name, maybe 200, 300 characters. Whatever they say, but after pressing the enter, whatever they entered, it will go and get stored inside the variable called n. And for output, we use a command called print. So that's very easy to use. It's very close to English, and you can have multiple information printing it on the screen, and you can always separate them with a comma. So over here we are printing a message. So whenever you are printing a message, you have to put them inside a double quote. So hello, comma, this is a message, comma, n. So n, as you can see here, n is a variable, and we do not put the variable inside the double quote. So n actually is referring to this name. So this line, if the user over here in this line enters the name, let's say Jack, and n is holding now Jack, this line, when it says print, hello, this is a message, space, and Jack. So this is a message, Jack. That's what it will print. So let's go for example. So we want to ask the user to enter their name and print a greeting. So we use this command, input, please enter your name, and we put the equal sign, we store it inside the variable called name, and we print this, hello, comma, name. Name is what? Name is this variable, whatever it is. Welcome to this course. So it will print this. You just need to remember, if you do not assign a variable to the input, because this happens a lot with students inside their in their GCSE exams, they just put input, please enter your name, and they do not put this part. You always have to assign it to a variable. If you do not this, if you just put input, please enter your name without any equal sign and assign it to a variable, that input or whatever user has entered inside your program, it will get vanished. It just get lost. So it's very important. If you just put input, please enter your name, this is wrong. You always need to have a variable, have an equal sign, and put that input here. Let me give you an example how it works and why it's very important. All right, so let's create that little program that we were showing on the slides in here. So we are going to ask the user to enter the name, and we are going to print a greeting message for the user. So I'm creating a variable called name, and I say is equal to input, please enter your name. And remember, whenever we are printing a message, we have to put that message inside the double quote, whether it is in the print or it is on the input. Always a message string, it has to be inside the double quote. And I'm going to print a message for the user, hello, the name of the user, which is the name, and comma, welcome to this course, and I'm going to run it. So just 2 lines. Let's remove this also, so it's just 2 lines. Name, input, please enter your name, print, hello, name, whatever you are, welcome to this course. I'm going to run it. Please enter your name. I'm going to enter Jack as my name, and here we go. It says, hello Jack, welcome to this course. Now I want to show you this, that in case if you forget to put the name, so like this one, so I have an input, I have a print, right? But I don't have this name, right? So if you put something like this, you are asking the user to enter something, but that is getting lost. So if I enter something again, Jack, this program will not work because it tells you that I entered Jack, but now the program thinks that, okay, I'm in the second line, I'm going to print a message, but I need to print a value of the variable called name. But inside this program, there is no variable called name. So it generates you this error, that undefined variable called name. So we have to go and create that. Even if I create that variable called name, and if I assign it to something, right, you know, some other name like Phil, right? And if I run it, you see here, you know, I entered Jack, but it will say, hello Phil, welcome to this course, right? So this input on its own, it will not work until and unless you assign it to a variable. So if I add this, assign this to variable called name, you know, the one which we already have. Now look at this one. So line number 1, we are assigning Phil to variable called name. So name is Phil. In the second line, we are getting an input from the user and we are assigning it inside the variable called name. So we are overwriting whatever inside the variable called name. So that is exactly what happened here. So we had Phil and we had name. We had Jack. So now if we run this program as we expect, so first we have assigned the value of Phil to the name, and then we are overwriting that value with another value which we are getting it from the user, and we are going to print the new value. Now if I run this and if I enter Jack, you see here now it says, hello Jack, welcome to this course. So it doesn't have Phil anymore. So it was the name, the variable called name, it was filled with the value of Phil, and then after that we overwrote that value, we overwrite it with another name, with Jack, inside the variable called name. So this is the very basic thing, you know, how you play with variables, inputs and outputs, and this is our the first programs that we started writing. So using these CodeStation or the OCR interpreters, it will help you to better understand how exactly the program works, and you can see the real output of your programs. Because when in the exams, you don't have the beauty or the luxury of having these tools. You have to just you just need to write it on a piece of paper. So it's much more difficult. So always try to practice yourself using these tools, practice your programming, and make sure that you understand what you are doing, and based on that, you know, continue your learning. All right, so this was our first part of this course. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next session.